Hello, my dearest friends. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt, and welcome to my very first recommendation video of 2025. This is not going to be a trope recommendation video. It's more so going to be an audiobook recommendation video. If you're an audiobook lover like me, you're going to want to stick around and see all of the audiobooks I'm going to be recommending to you today, because all the audiobooks I have picked are ones that I really highly enjoyed when it comes to either the production, or I fell in love with the audiobook narrators, or the audiobook narrators were already favorites of mine, so I really had to pick up the audios for these books, and I really did enjoy them. And I'm just going to tell you, I think there are 15 books on my list that are definitely worth it to pick up when it comes to the audiobook rather than the ebook or a physical book, at least in my opinion. So you can definitely research this if you haven't picked them up yet to see if you would like to pick them up. And I'm just going to go ahead and dive in with the first book, which is my favorite book of last year, which was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. So this book, this audiobook, was done in dual narration, but for the parts where they were communicating through online messaging. Whenever it came to the online messaging, it was done in duet. So each of the respective characters was reading their part during that part, but when it came to the chapters, it was done in dual narration. But I just really loved Zachary Weber and Kristen Lakin, their way of interpreting the narration. I just fell in love with the characters because of the way that they were interpreting them. And I really love the audiobook for this one. I have the physical copy of the book, but if I were to pick up to reread it, I would again do the audiobook and probably just annotate the physical copy, so my favorite quotes. But yeah, this audiobook is definitely worth it. The second book I'm going to mention is another fan favorite, which is Funny Story by Emily Henry. And I have to say that every Emily Henry book until now, I think, has been narrated by Julia Whelan, who is quite a popular audiobook narrator. She is just a beast when it comes to audiobooks. She is such a prolific kind of a narrator. She does Taylor Jenkins Reid's books as well, and I think she just does a splendid job when it comes to conveying both the female lead as well as the male lead within a story. You don't really get brought out of the story when it comes to the male perspective, even though it's a woman who is reading out those parts. And I just love the way that Julia Whelan narrates. It really takes you along with the story, and I love this audiobook, so I would definitely recommend the audiobook for this one as well. The next one is so much fun. It's Lights Out by Navessa Allen. This is quite a popular TikTok book that came out last year. It's a dark-ish romance with comedic kind of elements in it, and it has a morally gray hero, it has a masked hero, and it's just such a fun story. It's such a sexy story as well. I think it's so much fun because it's also done in duet. And the narrators for this one are Elena Wolf and Jacob Morgan, who actually is Zachary Weber. So this is an alias for Zachary Weber. I think they just did such a splendid job with the production of this audiobook. It was so much fun. I flew through it, and I think that everyone who picked up the audiobook definitely probably enjoyed it more than the physical copy. Now, the next book is actually part of a series, and all of the books within the series are narrated by these narrators. I'm just going to mention it. This one is Honeycut, part of the Lioness series by Sierra Simone. These are narrated by Oscar Reyes and Isabel Ruther. I have to say that this series is just so sexy and so completely Sierra Simone. If you have read Sierra Simone before, you know that she writes forbidden and quite spicy romances. So she's written quite popular forbidden series, and this one is no exception. And the audiobook is just great for this one, especially the male lead is just narrated in such compelling way. And because it's quite sexy, I think the thing is with spice, whenever you're reading an audiobook, you don't want it to sound like porn, right? You don't want it to sound in a way that kind of gets you demotivated to continue on listening to it. And I think that Sierra Simone just has a tasteful way of doing spice. Sometimes it's filthy, and sometimes it's probably going to be over the limit of some readers, but I think the audiobooks are just tastefully done, and it's not letting you get out of the story because it's narrated to you, if you understand what I mean. So I really, really am enjoying this series, and I'm definitely going to be picking up the next book when it comes out this year. Now, I think the big revelation when it comes to audiobook narrators for the past year for me has been Laura Horowitz, who narrates Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I think this audiobook narrator is such a fun narrator when it comes to, first of all, her social media presence. She creates reels off of ways that she's narrating characters, and then she posts them on social media so that you know what it's like to be a narrator, and I love that when it comes to her page. And then when I listen to Phantasma, she does such a splendid job with this book. She has such a smoky way of presenting a hero. So she has a male voice that is quite smoky that I really love. And I don't know, it was just such a compelling read. It's a romantasy, and you don't want to, again, get taken out of the story because you're already focusing on the atmospheric parts and the world building, etc. And I just think she did a splendid job with this one. So Phantasma, if you're reading that one, pick up the audiobook. You won't regret it. Another romantasy that I really enjoyed when it comes to the audiobook is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This one was narrated in dual narration, I think. Was it dual or duet? I think it was dual narration by Stella Bloom and Anthony Palmini. And I think the heroine for this one, so the female narrator, I really enjoy Stella Bloom's narration. I really fell in love with her way of narrating. Sometimes it's going to be the hero who is like more favorite for me, and sometimes it's going to be the heroine. But in this one, I just love the female narrator of this book. And you know, when it comes to romantasy, for some romantasies, you need to read the physical book because otherwise you get brought out of reading about the world building. You really want to know how the world is set up. If you're listening to it, you can drift off and not really pay too much attention. It really is part of the magic of the audiobook narrator to really catch your attention with the way that they're narrating, so you don't get brought out of the story again. I don't know how to explain it in a different way, but with Quicksilver, I was just focusing on everything. I was so immersed into the story that I didn't want to miss a thing. And I don't know whether it's the plot or the audiobook narration, but I think it's both, a combination of both. I really love this audiobook, and I'll definitely read the next one in audiobook format as well. Now, another book that I really highly enjoyed when it comes to the audiobook production is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. This one was narrated by Savannah Peachwood and Oliver Clark. And again, I don't know what it was with this one, whether it was the fact that I was enjoying the plot so much and the narration just fit the plot so well, or whether I enjoy, because I really like Savannah Peachwood in other audiobook narrations, I've liked her before. I just really fell in love with the way that this production was set up. I love the story, I love the narration, and again, if I were to reread it, I would again pick up the audiobook for this one and then annotate my physical copy that I have. But yeah, I really love this one, and you would definitely love it as well if you pick it up with an audiobook. Now, the next book I'm going to mention is a new release from last year. It's Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. This one was narrated by Jason Clark and Samantha Brentmore. I love Jason Clark's narration. All of the heroes that I've listened to when it comes to Jason Clark's narration, I've fallen in love with. I think it's no secret that he's one of my all-time favorite narrators, and that's why I think I fell in love with the narration of this one as well. This one is part of her Small Town Ranch series that I think is the third book within that series, and is the one actually that I think I love the most. And I think with small town romances, I think I get more invested when I read the audiobooks for them, because I somehow get involved in the story more than when I read a physical copy of one. Jason Clark is a favorite audiobook narrator, and he definitely does a splendid job with this one as well. Now, the next book is such a fun audiobook. It's a great production. It's a debut novel by Mallory Marlowe. It's called Love and Other Conspiracies, and the production for this one is so much fun because you get not only the narration, but also some special effects and some special sounds within the audiobook that I absolutely fell in love with. And I think just such productions get you so much more involved in the stories. very similar like Butcher and Blackbird and other stories that have been done in this kind of a way where you get just those aspects that get you feeling like you're listening to the old-time radio plays, if you know what I mean. Like you're getting a full production, almost like a movie in your ear. This kind of audiobook I absolutely eat up every single time, and I really love that this book was done in this way. I think it elevated my enjoyment of this book, and that's why I gave it 4.5 stars. And I definitely recommend the audiobook for this one. The next one is by Ali Hazelwood. It's a short novella called Two Can Play, which came out last year, and I really loved it because of the audiobook narrator. It's Kelsey Navarro. It's a narrator that I've loved since I started listening to audiobooks. So this is specifically me loving the audiobook narrator. I just love the way that this narrator does male voices and female voices as well. So sometimes you have female narrators who do a male voice that is quite not hitting the right way. And Kelsey Navarro does a male voice really well, and I really love this audiobook, so I definitely would recommend it if you want to read a shorter audiobook. Another author who has great productions when it comes to audiobooks is Cara Bastone. And last year she did Ready or Not, which was a full-length novel, and I really love the production for this one as well. You get her usual kind of production where you get city noises, and you know, when you get a phone call, the actual phone is ringing. A production where you don't just get narration, but like a full sensory kind of an experience of really being into the story with what is going on. Again, almost like you're in a movie, and I really love that. I definitely recommend the audiobook for this one as well. Guys, I'm struggling with words today. I've been trying to record this next part so many times, and I'm just struggling, and I'm laughing to myself. I'm sorry. The next couple of books are part of a series, and it's the Greenbone Saga series by Fonda Lee. This is a series that I fell in love with last year, and I read the audiobooks for them. It's a series that is narrated by Andrew Kishino, and I just love it when we get a male narrator for the whole book. Typically, when it comes to romances, more often than not, we're going to get a female narrator if it's only one narrator in the book. And when we get a book that is narrated by a man, and especially with this one, we have more male characters within the story than female characters. I just love that we get this full representation of all the characters when it comes to the male leads, and I just love the audiobook for these ones, and I would definitely recommend them. The next audiobook is so much fun because it's performed in duet, and it's called Can I Tell You Something? It's one that has a very fun premise. I talked about it a couple of videos ago, where we've got a hero who does this kind of a narration of spicy stories, and the heroine is a fan of his, and they meet by chance because he turns out to be her brother's best friend, and they go on this ski holiday together, and it's just so much fun. The production of this one is so much fun. I was giggling because of the way that it was performed and because of the plot as well, and the banter. I just love this book, and the audiobook for it was splendid. All right, so we've got only two more. The next one is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Sarah Rash. This one is narrated by Alice Evans, and I just had so much fun with it. Again, the way that it's narrated, I think, really contributes to how much I enjoyed the story, because there is banter within the story. There are these meet cute moments and these activities that they go on, but just the way that it was narrated was so interactive that I just had so much joy because of it. And I don't think I would have had the same experience if I read the physical book of it. And that's why I think I enjoyed it to the fullest. So this one is definitely worth it when it comes to the audiobook. And then the last one I'm going to mention is Keep Me by Sarah Kate. It was performed by Will Watt and Kelly Tager. And this one is great because we have a Scottish male lead. So we've got a narrator who does a Scottish accent quite well. And I know that Scottish accents are really difficult to pull off, and specifically to understand, especially if you're listening to an audiobook in like a higher speed. I typically listen to audiobooks in 2 times speed, and For Scottish accents, I need to tone it down a bit because otherwise I don't understand them. But for this one, I didn't have to because it was just done so well. And I really enjoyed the audiobook for this one, and I would definitely recommend it. All right, my friends, these were the 15 books, the audiobooks that I wanted to recommend to you that I really highly enjoyed last year. Please let me know which audiobooks you've been enjoying so I can add them to my TBR and I can look them up. So the majority of books that I pick up in audiobook format come from Storytel. So if you have Storytel and you can recommend more books to me that are on Storytel, bonus points for that as well. And I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care and bye-bye.